So I'm Donna Coriel. I'm the creator of SoMeDocs, which stands for Doctors on Social Media. And I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself and let us know where we can find her and what you do on social media.
Sure. I'm really happy to be here today. My name is Sarah Mojarad. I am a lecturer of engineering writing and medical education at the University of Southern California. I'd say my most active platform is Twitter, and you can find me there. My username is Sarah_Mojarad. So I tweet a lot of tutorials that are aimed for scientists and medical professionals. And this is really because my focus and expertise is in social media. I teach the course Social Media for Scientists, which I co-created while I was working at Caltech. And it's a really fun course that focuses on the issues and opportunities with using social media in a professional capacity. And I also tweet a lot for the medical community, specifically around online professionalism.
Let's just dive into the nitty gritty in terms of what's out there, just to make things interesting. And I think you'll agree with me. I think people's attention span has just really shortened as we use, right? As we use social media more and more, I feel like people just take in content in very short bits.
Definitely.
Let's talk really quickly, professionalism on social media platforms. And specifically what interests me are the platforms where we haven't necessarily paved the way as professionals to using it, right? So maybe less Twitter, because I feel like Twitter is very professional based because it's words. Whereas, for example, Instagram, like how do you feel about a platform that is very photo heavy?
I think that Instagram is a fantastic opportunity because you're able to put an image out there and people get really creative with the captions and descriptions they put. So it adds a lot of context and life to it.
Are you on it?
I am.
Oh, you are on it. Okay, wonderful. Same handle?
Yeah, it's my least active platform though.
All right, let's talk about a tweet you put out that I thought was great. And actually it's surrounding professionalism that we just spoke about. You tweeted, "Don't turn online professionalism into a blood sport. Disparaging remarks are unprofessional. Critique the comment, not the individual." I really love that. Can you just tell us a little bit about maybe what sparked this, or are you seeing a trend towards personal attacks on social media?
I am definitely seeing a lot of personal attacks. And the reason why that happens is because people will look at content and get very angry at it. And I think that most of the time folks don't think when they respond to it.
I also sort of dabble in social media and have my own opinions as a professional on it. And I do sometimes cross that line between professional and not because I'm not being professional, but I want to let my human side be online, and that's hard. I think people judge very harshly, and I think people jump to judgment sometimes without just taking a step back and maybe taking a few deep consideration breaths right in and say, well, on the other side of this tweet lies a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for us to say that. If there is a situation in which someone's tweet is offensive to some, do you have any particular advice to the person who's tweeted that out if they do not agree with the people that were offended? Meaning, if your tweet offended a group, but you disagree with that offense, other than taking that tweet out, because if your tweet was powerful and actually does make an important statement, how can you address the situation?
It depends. I think that oftentimes this will happen with my own content when I'm discussing pseudoscience or misinformation. There are a lot of people who will get offended by that. And what I tend to do is not address the comments. And I think that's the reason why is you can get into these battles with people. And if you really stand by what you've said, I think in certain contexts, maybe it's best not to engage.
Okay. So allow people to get offended as a response to your tweet, but sort of just allow that conversation to take shape on its own.
Absolutely. course, if it gets out of hand or you change your position on what you had put out initially, then that may take a different route. You may want to remove the content or actually explain a bit more what you were intending by putting out that message.
Right. That's what also is a good question is, do you recommend further engaging with those that find your content to be offensive in any way, or do you recommend sort of taking a step back and just not responding?
It definitely depends on the context, but I always like to encourage people to ask themselves, what's the harm here? If there's a tremendous amount of harm, if it could be excluding people from the conversation in a way that is just inappropriate, definitely reconsider and definitely clarify what your intention was. There's just a lot of bad in the world right now, and we need to make sure we're all doing our part to not add to it.
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree with that completely. Another tweet that you wrote, you were responding to someone. I can understand your position, but I always like to ask myself, what's the harm here? If the harm exceeds the benefit, something needs to change. If the harm extends to society, there's an urgency and responsibility to address it. I think that maybe that was in response to maybe someone like criticizing you for doing these tutorials on maybe threads that are more offensive or that cause harm.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of feedback regarding the critiques that I do on specific individuals. And I think through very hard about whether or not it's appropriate, because recently I've gained thousands of followers. And with that is a certain amount of responsibility, because as soon as I comment on one thing, that could mean unintentionally unleashing a mob or attack on that person. And I really try and be more careful about that, because a lot of times the issues that I point out are very upsetting to people. And so that's why I always ask the question, who is this harming? Is it going to impact the relationship between medical professionals and the public? Mm-hmm. And if it is, I try and focus on those issues and bring them out.
Yeah, and you actually touched on a great word for me. Mob is a word that really sticks out to me, because I've personally noticed that in my dabblings in social media, just that sort of almost cultish and tribal and like mobbish mentality, that it scares me. And I honestly find it to be true even amongst professionals. I think it's so easy for us to get carried away and sort of just trust and open up and not think about the consequences of what we do, or the fact that we are essentially teaming up sometimes on certain things. Do you notice that online sometimes?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it's unfortunate. And the way that I like to think about this is the comments that you're putting out, how you're responding to people. At any point, your audience can turn against you, and all of a sudden you can be the one on the receiving end of harassment. Right, and so how would you want to be treated? Would you want people attacking you for who you are, or would it be easier to address if they were focusing on your message? So that's why I really try and stress this.
I'm going to try something new today. A few people have reached out expressing concern over 2 dental students who use doctor in their Instagram handle. In the profiles, they have future dentist and 4th-year dental student listed. So in general, like using the word doctor, I mean, it definitely resonated with a lot of people, because I think when you are a doctor and you've earned that degree, maybe it's frustrating to see others use that and it is not earned, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think about the students, though, having foresight? For example, I'm just thinking devil's advocate. What about the students that are then, well, I'm about to graduate. I want to sort of create content that's everlasting, that's evergreen, and I want to have it in my profile, and I want to be able to use it even, from now and in a year when I graduate.
That comes up a lot. In fact, I've encountered a number of undergrads who are taking pre-med, and they've actually said to me, I want to start marketing now and building that audience now because it's going to be important 10 years from now. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that position, but just squat a username, just grab it and then transfer the content over once you graduate. It's pretty simple, especially on Instagram. You can keep all of your followers.
Yeah, you're right. I teach branding, and you're right. It's a problem because it kind of contradicts the laws of branding. Obviously, with branding, you want to sort of keep a name and keep it throughout years because that's the whole point, is name recognition. But you're right. In the professional world, I teach physicians, I teach doctors that are already have earned their degree. So it isn't an issue with med students or the people that down in the future they're going to earn something. But it also brings up another interesting point, is in that the online world is so unregulated. We're sort of creating our online image. And so there's something interesting there. Like, it works for the creative arts and for things where you can just kind of pretend or create. But it's a little tricky where it comes to professionalism and actual health and science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's cool. It's like a soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah. One of the perks of living. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And people are much more conscientious of what they're trying to put out there. So I give people a lot of credit because this is a lot different than 10 years ago.
Yeah.